Hi lovelies, welcome to LLAMASTE, the Pistachio Llama podcast. I hope you're all having a paw-some Tuesday. By the way, before we move on, the word paw-some. Please let me know if this word gives you the ick. Literally, I have deliberated so much on whether or not I should include this word in the podcast. So let me know whether or not you like it or whether or not you hate it. Now you might be thinking, okay, who the heck do we submit any of our complaints to or any inquiries to? Now you submit it to either of our Instagram or our TikTok. Our handle is @Pistachio Llama, or you can either email us info@pistachiolama.com.au, and you can also direct all your queries to Mua. So my name is Stella and I am the founder and director of Pistachio Llama, and I will also be your host throughout these series and episodes. So welcome, thank you so much for joining in. This podcast was brought about my intention to delve into the world of pet ownership. What gets pet owners ticking? What is the gossip? Everyone loves a good gossip. And what better way to do it than in the comfort of a podcast session? And hopefully this podcast will also strengthen the bonds and connections that we have made and created on Pistachio Llama, on our social medias, our Instagrams, our TikTok, on our website, and create even more of a loving and supportive pet parent community. So last week, Pistachio Llama went to Instagram, and I do apologize, we didn't get time to post this on TikTok as well, to ask you to submit any of your hilarious, quirky, or horrifying pet stories that you might have. And we have been blown away by the interest in our podcast. Number one, first and foremost, your interest in our podcast, and also by your submissions. We have got some great, amazing submissions, and we already have an interview lined up, which is super exciting. And thank you so much for wanting to participate and being interested in what Pistachio Llama keeps putting out there. Now, I am aware that when we made the announcement on our Instagram page that we mentioned that we would be doing 3 stories per episode. And then I thought about it and I was like, why do we say we're going to do 3 stories? Like 3 stories is way too much for me to get through and for you to listen to. Like, we want these podcasts to be interesting, engaging, and entertaining as well. And we want you to take something away. And dumping 3 stories onto you is just way too much, and I don't believe it's going to work. So we'll stick with the 1 story for now. And we might, and as I mentioned, so we'll stick with the 1 story for now. And as I mentioned, we've already got an interview lined up as well, which is super exciting. And we're going to slide in like either a comedy skit or a rant session, purely for entertainment purposes, but also to give you something to think about and take away from all these podcast sessions. One more thing before we get into this week's story, which by the way is a double trouble story. It's super cute and super exciting, and it's a funny one. So we're kicking these podcasts off with a light-hearted story time session. And before we get into this story, I just wanted to thank you once again. Honestly, it continues to amaze me the level of support which Pistachio Llama has received since its inception back in March of last year, when I was still living in my 1-bedroom apartment in Sydney, working full-time at a law firm and studying law and trying to kick off this business, and which I've been doing full-time now since November. I've taken a 1-year career break from the law firm, and ever since November, things have really started ramping up on our social media pages. We've gained loyal followers, loyal customers that keep returning to us month after month, and I am so grateful to every single one of you. Now, I'm going to have a little bit of an honesty moment here with you, and it's quite hard for me to say this, but working at a law firm, studying law, people already put you on kind of like this little pedestal, and I think it's embarrassing even for me to say this. I really don't enjoy the way society views people, well, like myself, I guess. And by revealing my deepest and darkest secrets that I've actually wanted to start a pet business for many years, disclosing that to even some of my closest friends, like my closest circle, the reception wasn't always the best. And it can be quite saddening, but at the same time, they're not living my life. And you should also, and this is also something that you can take away with you from this podcast if you don't take anything else away from this episode, that you need to live life for yourself. You need to do what makes you happy regardless of what other people think of it. You can't please everyone, and they're not walking in your shoes. At the end of the day, when you're lying on your deathbed, you need to be happy with the kind of life that you have lived. So now that took a bit of a dark turn for a little bit. So let's get back into the story of Lobo and Toro. Thank you so much once again for your submission, Lobo and Toro. We are very grateful. And these two stories are so cute. Now, for any of you watching this podcast, I will be holding a laptop up to my face because I do usually wear glasses because I am as blind as a bat. And I'm uploading this podcast to YouTube, obviously, because it is the only free platform that I know of where you can upload podcasts, visual, but podcast nonetheless. So Lobo and Toro, let me give you a little bit of a background. So they're both these cute little Pomeranians. I do apologize. I can't distinguish for sure which one is Lobo and which one is Toro, but they're both like a ginger color. Kind of like my hair, which by the way was supposed to be copper, but it turned out like an orangey color. But you know what? I'm quite happy with it. So we're sticking with this for a little bit. We'll see for how long. But anyways, back to Lobo and Toro. So they're both these cute little Pomeranians, two of them. One's got like that cloud haircut. Is that what you call it? I don't know what you call it. If any of you guys know what that cloud haircut is called, please let us know. And the other one's just got a standard super cute Pomeranian haircut. Now the first story is going to be about Lobo, and this one's really funny and made me giggle so much. So one time when Lobo's mum got home, Lobo wasn't at the front door when she opened it, and she got worried because normally, as any dog would, he would be barking and running to the front door, but he wasn't there. And so she thought he got out of the house somewhere, and then she started to panic a little bit and started looking for him all over the house. And then after looking around for a couple of minutes, she heard a scratch, and because the couch was in front of the dining table in their living room, right at the back of the living room, she couldn't see it from where she was standing at the time. So she was confused, but then she went to check into the bedroom because the dining table was near the bedroom, and she saw that he was stuck on the table, like on the dining room table, and he couldn't get down. And oh my gosh, the poor thing, he must have been there for a while because he even peed on the table. He must have been standing there for quite some time, stuck on the dining room table, wondering like, how the heck do I get off here? That's a super cute story. Now the second story is about Toro. And this was when he was still a puppy. He was very tiny, as you can imagine. I mean, Pomeranians are tiny even when they're full grown. And so being a puppy and being so tiny, he could fit into small places. And one time they couldn't find him. No matter how hard they looked, both mum and dad were looking for him all over the place, and they could not find him for a while. And he was nowhere to be found. So they started to panic, and they looked everywhere in the house, and the mum's partner to see if he had gotten out. And because he was a puppy and he was so tiny, he himself, like the Pomeranian himself, didn't know his name yet. So when they called his name, he never came back. Then they heard a scratching noise against something, and then they could see something in the toy box. And because there's a hole that he could fit in, Mum went to open the toy box and he was there playing with all the toys inside. They're completely unbothered by the panic that was surrounding him. He was in the toy box playing with his toys the whole time whilst poor Mum and Dad were looking for this little bugger. Thank you so much for your submission, Lobo and Toro. We've thoroughly enjoyed reading your stories, and I hope all our viewers have enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed it. Now, isn't it funny how pets have kind of become this extension of our family? Like, for me and my family, it's always really been kind of the norm. Like, we've grown up around dogs and cats. But I know that for the society in general, it hasn't always been the norm. And even having an Instagram page for your dog, like up until recently, like the last few years, you used to get kind of made fun of if you had an Instagram page for your dog. But now it's kind of like becoming normality, which is amazing. There's all these beautiful communities that I'm seeing on these Instagram pages where you're all supporting each other and sharing your knowledge and sharing your stories, and you're asking questions, and really it's so great to see the amount of support that exists within these communities. And I really hope that that is also something which Pistachio Llama is doing for you, that we're not only a petri company, but we're also contributing to your general health and well-being, especially of your dogs, and teaching you, the mums and dads out there, maybe first-time dog and cat owners, about proper nutrition and health for your pets. I did mention at the start of the podcast that we are going to have a comedy session or a little rant session in these podcasts as well. And for today's episode, we might go with something which, and it's only because this has happened recently and I was like, oh, okay, that's probably important to talk about. And this is, and I know people have different opinions on this, and it's in regards to Roundup. Now, I myself am a green thumb. I mean, for those of you watching this on YouTube, you can probably tell I've got all these plants around me. And before I started this, and before I started the Pistachio Llama journey, I actually set out on making a vlog about plants and teaching people how to care for their plants. So I do know a little bit about gardening as well. Like I've got a bit of a green thumb, okay? And Roundup is something which, well, I'll be honest, it doesn't agree with me. And I believe it is very harmful to the environment and to us, like even the people spraying it. Gosh, like I feel so sorry for them every time I see it. Like they're inhaling all these carcinogenic chemicals, which is terrible. And the employer, which is probably the council, they're not going to compensate all these people when they have later on in their life Roundup related complications like health. When later on in their life they start experiencing health complications from using these chemicals, from inhaling these chemicals, they're going to tell them to bugger off. Number one, yes, I feel very sorry for them, but I also get very worried about the dogs and even little kids around in the area. And a lot of you might not even be aware of what Roundup looks like. So once Roundup is sprayed on the ground, it comes up in this blue color. So whenever you see these random blue spots on the grass, avoid it. Like that's my recommendation anyway, especially if you have dogs. They're always sniffing. They're so much smaller than us. Their bodies can only take so much, and it's so much less than what our human bodies can take. So I just wanted to throw a word of warning out there to make you guys think about this and be aware of Roundup. To be aware of Roundup and do your research on it. Like if you don't believe me, or don't just go with what the general consensus is or what they tell you in the media. Like, do your own proper research on this and then make up your mind on whether you should be even using it yourself, maybe perhaps in your own garden, and how careful you really should be around this chemical. Okay, so that concludes our first podcast, first episode, the LLAMASTE. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined me on LLAMASTE. I hope to see you back for our next episodes. Bye for now.